Archimex login confirmed.
Welcome to the Lodge. You've accessed
the Lodgecast experience.
Warning, warning. Dangerous spoilers ahead. Enjoy.
The Lodgecast is a little podcast where we watch weird movies, so you don't have to.
The Lodgecast, baby.
Lodgecast, gonna smoke grass. Lodgecast, missing movie pass. Lodgecast,
We're gonna watch some crap,
Lodgecast,
and then the Lodge Master chats.
With Lucas and Bishki.
Episode 61, It, Chapter 2. Hello and welcome to another special episode of the Lodgecast. I'm your Lodge Master. With me as always is Brother Bishki.
We all float down here.
And Brother Lucas in the back. Beep, beep, Richie. And tonight we have a very special guest, the esteemed, the incomparable Brother Nathan.
Hey guys, who's gonna do it? Hey, you know what is this voice? Come down and George. You want to George?
Exactly. That is exactly right. And if you haven't guessed by now from these exquisite interpretations and impressions, today's film is It, Chapter 2. Oh, God, guys. What are we getting into
Let's
here?
hope it floats too.
2 hours and 50 minutes.
50. That's 5-0.
Yeah.
That's 5-0.
We're back.
Why is this movie this long?
That's why I've got a bag of donuts in my lap.
A bit.
Early morning screening. Where are we gonna start? Where are we gonna end here? I mean, the book is a huge tome, right? It's 800 page.
I
have tried to get to
over 1,000.
I've tried to get through the book on more than one occasion over the course of my life,
Yeah,
and I
just
can't do
chapters at a
it.
time.
I've never actually gotten past like page 500.
I would always have it at school because it always looked cool to be looking like you were reading it.
Yeah.
But I never was.
Yeah. Reading like the first 10 pages.
So everybody saw part one pretty recently.
Yep.
Yeah,
What was that screening like?
They were showing it in the Prime Theater as a catch-up, like late one night.
Yeah, they've
we
been playing
went to
theaters here in LA.
And I liked it better the second time I saw it. I was kind of anti the first time I saw it, just because. And this is a big one. I just personally do not like the design and the performance and the computer generated animation of Pennywise.
Of Finn Wolfhard. Oh, I thought you were saying. Oh my God.
No. I like all that.
I have to
Oh my
disagree.
God.
I think it's a new take. I think it's a real fresh looking clown.
Oh my God.
You think it's silly? What do you think?
Listen, when
That's
Georgie
the point, right?
encounters Pennywise at the storm drain,
Yeah, the open.
the first time you see him, he looks like a Lion King animated character. His eyes are fucking cartoons.
That when he's in the darkness.
Yes!
I like when he's in the dark there.
fuck.
I think the first
I'm
time they
with
show
Nate.
him, it's really strange.
There is
That's not the problems I have.
There's nothing scary about that.
I got problems with Stranger
Lucas,
Things.
I think his
what
face.
What are you doing?
I know. I'm silently nodding in agreement with you.
Really?
That yes.
Yes.
I felt that the Chapter 1, the first film, was a 2.5 bone, technically solid movie, but like The Lion King, was a bit hollow and soulless, or toothless, because it's like I've seen better images like of this before, and why it was better is because it was a guy in a sewer. It was practical, like it was like a real thing, and not like what you're saying, this CGI'd, airbrush, touched up.
I don't know.
When they're in the sewer,
That's not what
just-
bothers
it's
me.
when
just
they're in
about
the
it.
sewer and
Cover
Pennywise
band.
starts doing his like hyper dance, that's totally computer generated.
But his head is like in a fixed situation. That's so interesting. I thought that was an interesting
Unfold
thing.
his body.
man.
No, I thought it was
Makes me
interesting.
want to puke.
Well, the center frame, like where his head is staying in the center of the frame, but his body is gyroing like that. It was really strange. I thought it gave it a
yeah,
quality.
it looks like an Instagram filter.
I don't know.
Anyway.
I disagree.
That's my problem. What's your problem, Bishki?
Some of the little kids. That one Stranger Things kid I can't look at.
Finn Wolfhard.
Finn Wolfhard?
I can't look at that kid.
See, he was like a saving grace for me.
No, he got to say all the best lines, like perfect zingers.
And it was
said at the
perfect
time.
Stephen King channeling like stupid Stephen King jokes.
Yeah, I got Corey Feldman off him too. Like I thought it was.
But
I
what's
liked him in that
interesting, though,
way.
is I think I also felt when the first It came out, chapter 1, that I was a little fatigued with the first season of Stranger Things, and even the fact that they borrowed one of those actors, I don't think did them any favors, because you're bleeding the IP together now, and it deludes both of them. You know what I mean?
Don't you think that's why these are being made right now too? Like it is just like they came in, guys. We got Stranger Things here. We got one of every color, man. You know,
with kids riding bikes around.
Setting in the
There's 8 kids in it. You know, so I mean, I think it's smart. This material is hard to do. In one movie, so splitting it up. I didn't know if they always had that plan. It feels like they kind of did, but the success of one just cemented
definitely.
two.
Well, the first one definitely ends on a wait till part 2.
To me, it's a great elevator pitch kind of horror film, though. It has a great villain. It has this clown fear that it has a charge every time, guys. There's gonna be someone with a clown mask or something. Like it taps into something right now. You know, or always, that clown fear is, and to me that's fun and that's horror, and he's an icon that way, regardless of how it's dressed up.
Did you guys know this is the
like
highest
Dracula,
grossing horror film of all time?
Shut up.
This
It
is
is
very successful.
Made $700 million because of the clown fear.
The clown fear thing is primal. Like, it's hard to describe, and I love that that's part
give
of
us
the
a better clown.
genre. Well, he's the one. He's the one based on Gacy or whatever. It's King. You know, I grew up with like Stephen King paperbacks. My dad read them all the time. So I like that charge of the clown thing and anyway, that it's a long book. So splitting up is brilliant to do
first
the
movie's
kids.
Super long.
The 2 battles with Pennywise the Clown, this interdimensional demon or whatever we're gonna see here in the sequel. And we all saw the Tim Curry one. You guys all see that one?
Yeah.
Long time
I've
ago.
got a big fondness for it.
And I think when you saw it when you were younger, when you saw it, I think
it's dated
I'm right there
and
with you
clunky
too.
and cheap and bad. And
Tim Curry
it's
is just
indefensible, but Curry owns it.
Curry just has a head like a head. He has a forehead piece, but it's him with that red nose on. I mean, his performance is in that voice.
But I read some
like
review, I think on the AV Club, and what they commented on, which was so brilliant, is Tim Curry actually is able to sell and pull off being the playful, funny clown one moment, and then just turning it into this sinister darkness the next. Whereas I think Bill Skarsgard, he only plays it heavy.
He played all the boogeymen of our lives.
And he's never funny or cute. Like as a
never.
Don't you want your boat?
I want your boat. Take it. He's like that. Oh man, he's so scary.
And there's I got 3 more hours of this.
I think it's gonna be bloated. I do think this second one's gonna be kind of full of itself. I mean, this is the latter story where they're
into this,
older.
Guys. I need to change my outlook because this is gonna hurt.
It's an A-list cast though, man. I mean, it's got
McAvoy,
McAvoy, Chastain, Bill Hader.
I'm hanging my hopes on Bill Hader.
He might alone be cool in the context.
I think he gets great writing.
I think we're up for some major visual stuff. I mean, in the book and the Tim Curry, there's a big spider, so I can't wait to see
you think
this.
There's going to be a spider.
I think there's going to be I think it's going to be faithful in certain ways, and there's going to be something at the end here. This creature.
The spider never really worked for me, but
yeah, it doesn't work for me either. But
spiders rarely work.
I love that big soul balloon thing.
It should have been a
don't
sewer
analyze that
full of clowns.
I think if you don't analyze it too much, the end, the souls, all that souls floating thing is a beautiful, like, weird horror visual that gets at the end of the first film. So I think we're going to have big, A-list. This kind of genre doesn't get this kind of budget every once in a while.
No, this is $70 million movie.
It's going to kind of feel like a Star Wars prequel. It's kind of like 18 cooks and, like, put this in there. And
are we seeing it at the Dolby? We're seeing it at the Dolby, right?
We're seeing the beautiful
I think we're seeing Dolby,
Yeah, so
I'm checking right now.
At least the sound will be goosing us.
Yeah.
Keeping us awake.
Yeah.
I think we're ready. We're ready.
Bishki, there's a rumor that you might try to tackle the Bavarian legend pretzel at this screening. Is that true, or are you backing off of that?
Can you guys help me?
I'll give you some help. We'll give you some
I had some donuts earlier, so I don't know how much help I can. Yeah.
We'll report back on that.
We better get it. It takes like 20 minutes.
We also might see an extra guest floating past us that will join us afterwards.
Love that.
So see how that goes, guys. We got a lot of movie to watch, and we're gonna have to break it down.
Hour by hour.
Hour by hour, chapter by chapter.
Brick by brick,
brick by brick.
God
Balloon by
help
balloon.
Us all. Wish us luck, y'all. Love and light.
When you're down here, you'll float too.
I think about it, baby, all the time.
the Lodgecasters Club is back from Derry, Maine, with tales to tell. And if you can hear by that deliciously feminine wail from the back seat, we've picked up an additional guest, the Lodge Mistress Millie.
Hey.
She's back for Chapter 2.
Your hair is like blonde
Fire,
Oh.
January embers.
Yeah.
Before we get into it,
September.
before we get into this 2 hour and 50-minute mega movie, Bishki, what's that Stephen King schnapps?
From Rotten Tomatoes. Evil resurfaces in Derry as director Andy Muschietti reunites the Losers Club in a return to where it all began with It Chapter 2, the conclusion to the highest grossing horror film of all time.
Oh, man.
Wow, that is really the
27 years
So
after the
crazy.
Losers Club defeated Pennywise, he has returned to terrorize the town of Derry once more. Now adults, the losers have long since gone their separate ways. However, kids are disappearing again, so Mike, the only one of the group to remain in their hometown, calls the others home. Damaged by the experiences of their past, they must each conquer their deepest fears to destroy Pennywise once and for all, putting them directly in the path of the clown that has become deadlier than ever.
Well, first things first, Bishki, did you order a Bavarian Legend pretzel?
I did order.
A 1.5 pound
You did?
Bavarian
I did
Legend?
order, according to what I promised, or what I mean,
For the listeners, you did it.
I did it for the listener, and I had a little help from Lucas, and I was just like, it's
nibbling.
it's a 3-hour movie.
Yes.
There's no way I'm not going to be able to not finish this in 3 hours time. So
3 bites is equal to half a regular pretzel, just FYI.
You can't.
It's a behemoth pretzel.
It is obscene, isn't it?
Yeah.
How big that pretzel is.
It's a medium-sized pizza, just for our listeners at home, to give you a sense.
I was about to pass it down, but then the movie started. My stomach was just extended.
Oh,
And-
it's pure gluttony. This is pure gluttony.
Okay, so speaking of gluttony and extended, this movie's long.
Oh,
This movie's
This
so long. Oh.
There's so much they could cut. There's so much.
I could actually feel my ass fall asleep. Maybe like 2 hours in, and then it just stays asleep, and I kept having to move it, like readjust.
Oh, you drift. Like you just sleepy. Sometimes they're
You
just
float.
they're outside. Sometimes it's sunny. It's kind of nice, you know.
I know. At the end, when they came back outside, I was like, "Oh, it hurts. It's sunny again."
They all have like full meals together. You know, you're just like,
Oh,
look
they
what-
go
look
to
what he
this
got.
like empty bed and breakfast. There's like nobody else at the bed and breakfast but them, and it just like.
I
kinda-
definitely felt wisps of what it must be like to be Lucas during a very sleepy movie.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was.
welcome to my world.
It
Even
was,
with the
it
sound
had
cues,
a stranglehold.
there was
Sleep
a
had a stranglehold.
There
on
was
it.
a lot of great sound cues, and the speakers in the Dolby Atmos
Yeah,
were
this theater's top notch, dude.
like the best, like Chef's Kiss. But even then, yeah, like at 2 hours or 3 hours, you sink.
squirming.
You're in quicksand.
There's
Like,
an
you're-
extra hour.
You're
There's an extra
drowning.
hour.
You're
in there,
drowning.
for sure.
Bavarian knocked me out by the 3rd hour.
Were you out? Were you asleep?
I was in and out.
The final hour, I was.
the Bavarian legendary
I
coma.
was in and out.
I
Lodge
just think-
Mistress, was I snoring at all?
No, I didn't even know that you were asleep.
I was out a little bit, in and out, in and out.
I was awake the whole time except for when I left.
I drift.
Oh, yeah.
I started to drift maybe midway through, but I shook myself awake for the duration.
Now,
yeah.
Lucas, you were very professional. Before we went in, you were like, "Listen, it was just you weren't showboating in front of these others. You took me aside and you're like, I really want lunch, but I'm gonna wait till after because I'm gonna be professional." And I'm like, you know
Gotta
what?
announce
That
that.
really shows some maturity, man. And I'm really proud of you.
Thank you, because I knew any more bites of the Bavarian Legend, and I would have been.
The legend will put you under.
Passed out.
It'll
too,
put
yeah.
you right under.
The
Bishki is hurting right now.
Yeah.
I think what's fatiguing about the first movie too, when I watched the first
Yes.
one again, what's fatiguing is all of the encounters that each one of
Yes.
these
Yes,
people
correct.
have with Pennywise,
Yes.
and he doesn't get them. You know,
Right.
so it's like
You know he's
there's
not
no
gonna
payoff.
win.
You know he's not, and
Yeah.
and then so you watch like 2 and then 3. You're like, oh, how many kids are there? You
Yeah.
start counting. and they do, and they even got the one
they
that
pre-trimmed this crew.
even Stanley got
kill
one, and he
one of
wasn't
them
even
off,
there. You know,
Yeah.
and that just gets so.
It's a lot of characters.
It gets so soggy. You're just like, oh, okay. And at the end, they better get this guy. But sometimes sometimes they nick him in the head, and he turns to ash. You know, Endgame Ash. And then you're like, he's not dead, man. He's not fucking dead. He was a baby fortune cookie in this thing. You know, like,
Well,
which is in the run for the Salad Dragon, but maybe not.
There's a lot of Salad Dragon contenders,
There's a bunch
but
here.
but the problem I feel, and this feels a lot to me like The Haunting of Hill House, the Netflix series. This is a mini-series. This just should live as a mini-series.
Yeah, that's
Like,
what I was
I
thinking
agree.
too.
It's too much to take in
It
a
is.
theater.
It's way too. It's
too much story.
It's too much. You're pushing it. You're pushing us too far.
Yeah.
Like you said, Nathan, it's like it's very episodic. They're like, okay, we all have to split up and find a totem from our past to bring to a ritual.
That was when I was like,
It was a
checking out.
retread.
I
It was a
like-
retread.
I
was like,
turned slowly to the lodge mistress, and I'm like, oh, we're going to be totem hunting for the next hour and a half. And that's exactly what it is. It's like Nightmare on Elm Street vignettes,
Definitely a nightmare.
but without the structure of the dream. So you just feel like you're drifting through.
I was lost from start to
Like-
finish. Like you have no idea where
Like,
the mile
what
markers
means
are
anything?
or where you
What-
are
what
in
matters?
the movie, and it's hard to stay invested
Yeah.
when you don't know what the rules are too. I mean, like I know
Exactly.
I know
never
the
know
book
what the
and
rules
the
are here.
miniseries like accordingly, and I saw the first film, chapter 1, like once when it came out, and I haven't revisited it lately, but when I was watching this, I was thinking like, fuck me, Stephen King either has like so many convoluted rules that I don't know about, or
What
like
are
the
the rules?
filmmakers aren't dramatizing them
There's
visually
a
to
whole
like
bunch of
to,
cockamamie
to,
bullshit
to
in
help
this.
explain it, because I have no fucking
There's
idea what's
Native
happening.
American mythology.
Dude, that was when I
that
checked
little-
out too. When he
that
like, when he
little
shows that
pouch
like, yeah,
thing.
when he
Oh,
microdoses
fucking
him and he like
A,
doesn't
dude.
tell him, I was
That could've
like,
been a salad.
oh,
The peyote,
man.
yeah,
Okay,
those trick
let's-
sequences.
If this was
that's in the
King's
running, yeah.
book, like
Let's-
He is, yeah.
Let's
And
try
and
to nail
explain.
down what the rules are.
Well,
So
the main rule
go right ahead.
is if you're not afraid, then old Pennywise can't get you.
So that's why kids are the target.
But
'Cause
right,
they,
but so
they
if
have
they
less fear, or they have more fear.
allegedly, but then
Less
why then?
inhibitors.
What I don't understand is then why, if you're an adult and you already learned this when you were a kid, I know they forgot a bunch of shit, but still,
Right.
like why then is it even interesting for us if we already know that main thing and then all they are is just scared all the time?
Yeah.
It's so stakes none.
It is,
Right,
and that's
yeah.
the problem. That's why you're floating through it.
because you know what's
Well,
interesting?
that's
I
why
don't
they have
I don't
that
know if
real
this
life
was
bully,
the
too,
book or
to
the
drive
miniseries
plot.
invention.
That's why that's there. That
But
character.
wasn't the reason Bill in the miniseries he goes down because Audra, his girlfriend, gets kidnapped by it, or like she gets sucked into it?
Olivia Hussey?
Yeah,
in
so
the,
there were
in the
stakes there.
Tim
There was like
Curry
some
one.
kind of level like where if they didn't believe it or not, it didn't matter. It was like we have to go back and get his fucking fiance out of the tunnels.
There was
or whatever.
there was a pawn. Yeah,
But
there was
yeah,
someone in
here
jeopardy.
you're right. There are no stakes, and yeah, it's like they're
and that's
adults,
why,
and it's
that's
like
why
what do they have
you
to be
feel
so?
the length, because you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing here?
Because it would have been interesting to just turn the book into one standalone feature film.
And cut down all the shit.
And yeah, cut out all the shit and just like you make it about the kids fighting a clown because that's what's compelling.
Kids fight
That's the
clown.
only thing. Yeah.
You know what? Because that's it's the contrast of it. All those kids and their
Yes.
personalities with that killer clown in the
Kids are
darkness.
supposed to like
Like,
clowns.
we don't have that quite now. Everyone's just kind of scumbags. Like they're all dirty and shit.
Yeah,
They're all
yeah.
kind of like morally ambiguous. I mean, they're all they're not really engaging as people.
No.
None of them together. Like
Right.
you have that one scene
You
in,
could have
in
better
the
cast too.
in
Who
the
hell
Chinese
was
restaurant.
Bill or not Bill?
Bill Hader?
Ben?
Ben, yeah. Like,
Yeah, he's
who
like-
was that
he's
guy?
an
It's like
Australian
out of all the
actor.
actors, like you
I
get
have
that
no
guy.
problem with the cast. I
He
think
looked-
the
I
cast.
thought he looked like
what's
him.
the cast supposed to do in this? I have a problem with the storytelling and the enormity of the runtime
And the heavy
vis-a-vis
CG.
the storytelling.
There's
Oh, the
heavy
CG.
heavy CG that doesn't look as real as the alligators in Crawl. Like I'm sorry, like it just looks way
It wasn't
too
enough.
shiny.
It
and
wasn't enough
glossy.
Pennywise for me in this either. Like the first, I think chapter 1, there's a lot of Pennywise, and some of those scenes are really kinetic. Like he comes out of the movie. I mean, they're really engaged the whole group.
Right.
So this one, he's
Kinda
few and
takes
far
a back
between.
seat, yeah.
up to the ending where it's like ridiculous,
Too much.
fucking ridiculous. And the deadlights thing, that deadlights thing sounds, when you read it in the book, it's kind of scary. Like you see its deadlights, like your imagination goes wild.
Right.
But to see three balls like headlights like that down a big Sarlacc pit, it's really the only thing they could do. But it sucks.
Yeah, it's not scary.
I think. Well, other than Bill Hader getting possessed there for a second, that was kind of a wild scene at the end.
Cool.
When he just stops dead and
There's
but you never know how much power Pennywise has.
There's a few tentpole moments where I'm just like, you have my attention, and let's just lay that salad dragon nest out. I summon the salad dragon.
The Salad Dragon. A scene in a movie that is so bizarre, baffling, or transcendent that it instantly justifies the price of admission. Or Reese Witherspoon's leafy transformation in A Wrinkle in Time.
I think the first contender is the Chinese restaurant.
The baby fortune cookie bug.
What was going on there? They got fortune
That's
cookies
in the
at
book.
the end of their
That's in the
meal.
book.
It's in the book?
Yeah, like this fortune cookie possession thing.
An
There's a little bit in
insect
Tim Curry, too,
cracks a fortune cookie and crawls out, and it's got a crying baby's head on it. And then all manner of other, creeps and ghouls squirm out of
Eyeball.
Halloween headquarters.
I
missed section.
I thought it played better in the miniseries because, again, just in terms of timing, it just seemed more crazy and a real reaction. Whereas in this, it was so drawn out.
Yeah.
Like, drawn out.
Everything was so drawn
it
out.
overplayed, yeah. And then by the time the scene ended, it was like, all right, like...
It was literally just to put on a scare show and then move on.
Well, McAvoy coming back and buying his bike
But my
again as a child.
but my favorite beat was right after that, where they're leaving the restaurant, and this kid is like, "Hey, you're Richie Tozer," and he's like, "Yeah, man, you recognize me?" And he's like, "Fun's just beginning, right?"
Yeah.
It's like this,
fun's just beginning.
and it's like this
He's like, "I'm not
cute
scared
little
of you."
moppet, but then when he gives them this like little smirk, he kind of looks sinister or like evil, and he's like, "What'd you say?" And he's like, "I said the fun's just begun or something," and then he's like, "I'm not fucking afraid of you," and it's like just a real kid like in the town, and I thought that was a great moment.
Bill Hader was the best.
I was
part of the
laughing
movie.
pretty hard. Yeah, I laughed hard there.
Salad Dragon candidate the second is when one of the Losers Club, Mike, who is basically not really a character, he's just kind of a shaman.
And I wish it was a better actor. Like it's
Mike is such a soulful character in the book too, and to have that guy, he was just kind of like,
they reduced him to
come on
very
back.
little. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he's one note.
But the scene is he's showing McAvoy the ritual of the chewed.
After he's blindly microdosed him without his permission.
He
which is
microdosed
whack.
him with a Native American root.
Dude, could you imagine if
That
someone
has
from your
some cool
past
visual
called
stuff
you back
going on.
home and was like, "Hey Matt, like come back to Minnesota," and you come back into town, and they're like, "You want something to drink?" and you're like, "Sure," and then they just dose you.
They don't
and it's
tell
like,
me that
so
there's
listen, I'm gonna show you something, but you gotta just trust me, man. It's like I'm gonna tell you something, and it's like, wait a minute.
You know,
like,
Minnesota needs some excitement sometimes, so I'm fine with that. But in this movie, he goes on to say, "I'm going to show you how it all began," and he does it through Native American mythology.
Hashtag problematic.
A leather
that, that shit was a little clunky.
Oh,
and like that's something you leave in the
But
book
the
or you
scene was
change.
incredible. Like,
It's
taking
all
him
done
through-
so well. That's
taking
the
him
crazy
through the
thing.
hallucinatory vision. Like, this is an expensive movie.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Like Pennywise is CGI whenever he can be. Like whenever he's 20 feet tall.
Yeah, I don't
he's
think he
wrapping around
was
belly.
really on set.
The Paul Bunyan scene
Yes.
must have cost a pretty penny, and it had no real
It
point.
had
That
nothing
could
to
have
do
been
with
cut.
anything.
No.
Easily cut.
He didn't even get his token from Paul Bunyan.
No.
I mean,
There's another scene, which has just been mentioned, where there's a giant Paul Bunyan statue, speaking of Minnesota, who comes alive and just starts terrorizing Finn Wolfhard. And
with about 20 extras in the background,
doing nothing.
dancing and swaying. But, I mean, that was an expensive scene.
So expensive.
Yeah.
This movie's
They're
got money to burn.
burning money.
You think it's a pressure to include things that are in the book? I mean, like why?
I'm sure.
More for the money stuff? Is that what we're getting from?
Well,
like,
and
these
they're like,
studios?
they know, I guess they know It Chapter 1's the biggest horror movie of all time, so they're like, we gotta throw in some...
They thought
The clown thing.
They thought they were getting Endgame of horror movies here. They thought
Oh,
this
it
is gonna
feels like
make
Endgame.
$1 billion. I don't think.
What
it
do
will,
you
but
think? Like, so many people this weekend are going to a 3-hour clusterfuck, and they're just waltzing right in.
People are going to come out like, oh, I love it.
That was what was interesting. Is
great.
I was watching it, and I was thinking, and our audience was sold out. And I was thinking, gosh, yeah, because Millie's kind of in awe that like the first film almost grossed $1 billion. And I thought, like, well, maybe the first one was successful because in 2015 there was that Florida clown outbreak, and then Stranger Things happened, and it was in the zeitgeist, and it was in this moment, and we all kind of came together.
Yeah, but what about now?
But now watching this, the people sitting next to me, which were much younger, like I think in high school or like maybe early 20s, like they were like openly guffawing and laughing at certain dramatic scenes, and like when they were chanting and things, like they were just laughing at it. And I was thinking, like, man, it kind of feels like we're all sitting here together looking around at each other like, how the fuck do we get here? And
I don't really know who this movie's for.
What are we watching right now because of like the crazy images? And they are crazy images, right? So it's like, wow, this is
But
fucking
it also
crazy.
begins with like a brutal hate crime.
Yeah.
Like what? Like how does that?
That was
how
sour.
does that set the tone
That
for
was
this?
ugly.
Really?
That was really ugly.
Indeterminate age.
It's
Were they kids?
Yeah.
They were like.
Were they adults?
Yeah.
Weird.
I couldn't.
It was a bummer.
I
It was
couldn't
a way
fathom
bummer.
that that's the way you'd open your movie. Like,
Yeah, that was from King's book too. I remember reading that part in the book, but I was thinking like, damn, this is your cold open, and then they had this crazy title effect, and it was like, I don't know
yeah,
about
like a
this.
Gasper Noé.
Nicholas Winding Refn.
Yeah, and I wasn't really
Neon.
sitting right with me because I was like, that's fucking dark as fuck. Even the girl under the bleachers, I was like, damn.
The movie is just all over the place. It's all over the place. That's why I'm like, at least whack it up into miniseries episodes. So each totem collected is an episode. We learn more about one of the characters. I don't know. Like, there are better ways to do it than cram it into a 2-hour and 50-minute behemoth that we just had to wade through like so much gray water.
There's nobody's having. It's not any fun at all. Like it really isn't any fun.
I thought
the movie felt a little more like an adventure.
I thought the movie was ending, and I looked at my watch.
No.
And I was like, wait a second, I think we have another hour left. And I looked at my watch again just to make sure, and I was like, yep. Like, and I leaned over to...
Lucas told me,
Yeah.
and that was when I kind of gave into the Bavarian.
Yes, you give in. You close
you just
your eyes.
ate more than you dare.
You close your eyes.
It went subterranean,
You turned
and,
nutty.
and I was just like, I think I know what's gonna happen.
I told Millie too. I was like, "We have another hour."
I
And
know,
she
I was
just,
like, we have another hour.
it's like
of
she
this.
saw the dead lights and her eyes rolled back, and it was just like, yeah.
I reclined my... I was smart because I didn't recline my seat for like the first
That's
hour.
the key.
That's
So
your
like
key.
I
That's the key.
slowly reclined it over the course of the movie. So I was like,
I was
nah.
sitting straight up by the end.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand, the final hour of this movie is in the sewer,
Yeah.
and it is dark and it is wet,
And there's like a strobe light at one point.
and you just drift. You drift into the sweet clutches of sleep.
And you're like, they did this exact same thing before.
Same exact.
We're in the same room,
we're in
doing
the
the same deal.
place, except I guess they found a new tunnel now.
They
and it
found
was
one
like,
new tunnel.
But like, don't you think that just visually that should have been like
Change
another
it up.
color,
Yes.
like something? Because it was like literally you felt like you were in the same place.
Or like the Native Americans point you to a new location.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Like,
No,
oh,
let's
we
keep
thought
the
it was
vibe.
in the sewer, but it's actually somewhere
in
completely...
a lumber yard.
Yeah,
Oh, I
in a
thought it was
lumber
gonna-
yard.
I thought it was going
Yeah.
to be at the circus. Like I thought
Yeah,
there was.
great. At the circus.
circus.
I thought
Way
going
better.
through the mirrors, and then there's another room that goes into this,
That's
some
right.
other
To the
subterranean
circus.
thing. What's unforgivable is that thing homage, where with the head of that boy becoming a spider and him
he's like,
saying,
"What the fuck?
What
You
the
gotta be fucking
fuck?
kidding me!" Yeah,
Or you got to be fucking kidding me.
That's right. I caught that.
And there's a few like that, the Shining reference and all this bullshit. Like those you can't do. You can't do that anymore. Like that spider thing could have got cut easily as
They
well.
done did it. There's a lot of spiders.
Couple cameos. Peter Bogdanovich is in this.
Yeah,
Out of
Bogdo. You guys see Bogdo?
And then not only is Peter
Bring me back to
Bogdanovich,
one.
but Louise Stratton was the actress's assistant.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, Bogdanovich literally booms down on
He
a crane.
gets a scene.
He has a great
That's like a
little moment,
scene.
yeah.
That
It's
was
like
kinda
he's
great.
He's
beyond
got
a moment.
gravitas, man.
It's bigger. In a
And
He's gonna live forever. That guy.
working at the secondhand shop, the man
Himself.
responsible for the whole
Man.
shebang.
I perked up at that part.
Stephen King.
Yeah.
I saw the back of his head and I'm like, there he is.
That's him.
Yeah, I grabbed Bishke's arm when I heard his voice.
So
I
he
was
must
like,
he must approve of this movie. I don't know. Let's see how he comes out with
who
tomorrow.
knows what he approves of.
No, he loves it.
At first, I thought
Oh,
Did he
it was
like
Bruce
the first
Dern,
movie?
but
Has he
then,
come
yeah.
out and said he liked it?
I'm sure.
He has so much
I'm
problems.
sure he's just happy to be there.
Yeah.
He was doing his
God
accent.
bless him.
Yeah,
He was
God
great.
bless that soul.
Well, as you can tell, we're not really going through this plot with a fine-tooth comb
can't we?
because
Oh, my God.
we'd be here all day and it wouldn't amount to much. It's
No.
literally just kind of a scare ride of everybody's got their memories, everybody's got their secrets, gotta have their secrets exposed, totems collected, gonna kill Pennywise again, just like we did in the last one. We used a lot of footage from part 1. So
And a de-aged Finn Wolfhard, who they made look younger, I think. Is insane.
Well, the cross-cutting really slows it down too. To go back into the hole, and they're really just hanging out together. There's nothing that furthers the future plot. You know, it's like
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
kids are great though. Like the young Bev is great. I mean, they're luminous. Like all of them together. I think that's why that first one has more of a spark. And I think that's what the book it's about child murders and it's about this team that comes together, right?
And then nobody likes.
But these old fangled and
nobody likes part 2 of the miniseries more than part 1.
Yeah.
And it's
Correct.
the same as
Correct.
this. It's
Yeah.
like we care about the kids going on a Goonies adventure.
Again, it's
that's,
that contrast. Yeah, it's
that's
just
more
that-
fucked up.
It is. It's a much bigger, more bigger stakes. It's just way more, interesting. Absolutely.
And in part 1, you had the nostalgia factor with the 80s stuff, which is 50s
that-
stuff in the book.
Exactly.
that too, yeah.
Well, in this
Exactly.
one,
But there's no,
backwash.
there's a very, very conspicuous boom up at the end where they go past a marquee, and it's Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
Which is the 90s, right?
He's referencing
It's like
that.
Which is
90 or
like
91?
89 or 90.
Yeah.
And it's the Dream Child, which I'm like, am I to glean something from the Dream Child? Did they all get each other pregnant somehow?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
what was that?
The adult chemistry is rough too. Like, I think is McAvoy and Chastain, are they the same age? Like, I can't put them in the same world as a couple.
I don't know.
In my mind. But those dynamics just weren't working.
I
at
also
all.
had an
Like,
issue with them ending on Stanley's suicide note, as like
Me
as a
too.
positive.
That
or
must
something.
be in the book.
I thought when he
That
was like,
must be
"Hey,
in the
check
book.
your mail," it was going to be like a wedding
Yes.
invitation for Ben and Bev getting married.
That was gonna be from
and it was going to
Pennywise.
end.
That was gonna be from
and it was going to
Pennywise.
end on like a positive note, and instead it's like his suicide note, and it was somehow whimsical or wistful or something. But I was just like, this is not right. Like,
Because he
this-
knew he was a scaredy cat.
I
Yeah.
can't condone this. Like,
But that's also, I think, a product of not setting that up properly. Because
Right.
I'm sure it
Oh,
was
yeah,
set
it's
up in the
clunky.
book as like, he killed himself. He killed himself. We drove him to it, and then there's like, the relief of, it was my choice to help save you. This is my heroic move. But they didn't set it up.
I think we're at the point with this where you either have to pare the book way down or
Yeah.
do the whole thing.
You have
if you
to
go
limit
half,
it.
if you go halfway,
with the
hard to
book, you
process.
basically take the concept of this haunted town, this killer clown. Kids have to stop it.
Every
Period.
27
Like
years.
that's the movie.
Yes.
That's
The second
like
one.
anything
yeah.
else is just a different version of that movie.
and
Not
just
as
because
good.
it's written down
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to make it.
Right. Right.
They could have telegraphed the end a bit more. Like, we're gonna fight him here, and then throughout the movie, as they're coming together, instead of getting totems, like they piece together the plan about how they're gonna get him. Like it
Yeah.
needs to be simple. It can't have all these freaking offshoots
man.
and byways.
Right. And them
Like,
all,
we don't care that much.
them
Like,
all separated.
There's like 45 minutes of them just being like, "We're gonna get out of here. Let's get out of here." Like for at least
You're
an
right.
hour. Like
You're
we're
right.
we're gone. Like I'm
Right.
on my way, and it's like, God damn, can we just get to the part where we're already over this?
I
And,
think
like,
I
we're
think the inclusion
staying-
of all the comedy too, it just ruins the tone. Like, there's more comedy in this one than the
I
first
laughed
one.
more in this movie
First
than I
one
was.
had a balance.
I laughed more than I was scared in this movie, like hands down.
Definitely some one-liners that like really stuck.
Yeah,
I think
Bill
Hader
Hader owns it.
Bill
Like, yeah, he
Hader's the
steals
best.
every
alone.
scene
Bill
he's in.
Hader is good casting, I think, for that adult role. But he's the drift there. Like,
Yeah.
it's swirling around him.
Well, I can sense that we're all going to give 4-bone flawless reviews, so let's go to them clown bones. The legend himself, the Bavarian legend, Brother Bishke. What do you got? What do you got cooking over there?
Bavarian Astor.
I'm still full.
Oh, you will be for like 36 hours.
Yeah.
Yes, expect it.
I don't need no lunch. I got an asterisk because I slept
Oh,
How much did you sleep?
the last hour.
That's fine. That's fine. Me too.
damn,
Yeah.
dude.
And I had more fun at the first one, chapter 1 rather. I think this was kind of a retread. You know, a lot of going back to the same locales.
Yes.
And a lot of the same kind of scares. And I even though I had some problems with that one Stranger Things kid, I did enjoy the kids more than their adult versions.
Sure. You had it so good in chapter 1.
I had it so good I didn't even know it. But this one, I'm gonna have to throw a bone.
One bone.
One
single bone.
Wow.
That's an asterisk bone because maybe it did perk up in that final third. But that's all I can muster.
Okay, conserve your energy, sir. Brother Nathan, what do you got going on?
Ultimately, it comes down to this movie that I want it to be one thing,
Right.
and it's a lot more jump scares and this quick horror that's out now, and it just runs parallel to me where I just don't want to like it. I think this director has a lot of talent visually. I think he really knows where to put the camera. That's often surprising, but that's what it is. It's like a showpiece of one scene after another. How he stages real scary, spooky like tales. You know, it feels like an anthology, and it shouldn't. It's just this big garbage bag full of anthology horror, right? The spooky girl in the painting. I had a problem with that in the first movie too. Like all these
With
little.
the flute?
And they're all kind of similar too. I mean, the Pennywise thing, the clown thing, is what keeps this franchise interesting for me. I think. To see it done in this big stage, there's some really great set pieces in both of the films. I prefer the first one, but I'm giving it 2 bones.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I can't give it more than that.
No.
I would just say watch the first movie. I would definitely
basically
recommend
get
the
it.
first movie. I think I'm 3 bones on the first movie just because
Wow.
the visual splendor of it, and I think it was successful for what it was trying to do. This
Okay.
one just bloated little epic.
2 bones.
Bones.
Lodge Mistress Millie, what do you got going on?
Well,
Uh-oh.
I'm a fan of the first one because the characters had more at stake. They were these little kids. We could root for them. We saw that they had all these, things at home that were going on. These guys were all coming from being like a major architect, and they had very little problems, it seemed like, at home. I mean, Bev did.
Bev had problems.
But
Yeah,
other
Bev.
than that, they were living the good life. You know what I mean?
I also
So it was
like how Eddie's mom from the first one now plays his wife.
That was brilliant.
Brilliant.
We saw that immediately. That was great. But yeah, and I just feel like the thing that is most interesting all happened in the first film, and this is just completely Stephen King loving the theme of looking back on his childhood. And so if you're going to split the 2 films up, just do one film. Don't ever bring the adults back because there's nothing, they're not really fighting for anything, like the relationships aren't clear. Like I just that all being said, though, I do love a camaraderie tale.
Oh, no.
I love a camaraderie tale. I
That's
love
the
it
genre.
when they killed off a couple people, which was good. So in this genre of horror where it usually is super bleak,
What are you doing?
this wasn't. So I'm gonna say, my initial impulse was 2.5.
Okay.
2.5.
Okay. Great.
I mean, it's there.
If you're breaching 3, we're going to have words.
It's hard to get.
Brother Lucas?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of go off what the Lodge Mistress said, and it's a technically solid, well-made movie, and yeah, it's like 2 bones for most people, I would think, but because of the fortune cookie, Bill Hader screaming at the kid scene, and the Stephen King selling the bike to James McAvoy, and you can afford it, you're a fancy author, I was like, I gotta give it a half bone more.
Wow.
So it's 2.5. It's definitely
I didn't see that
two,
coming.
2.5 bones.
With your butt asleep and everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I was sitting there thinking, if someone approached me as a director and was like, hey, we want to make it into a movie, what's your take? It's just make it one movie under 3 hours and make it scary. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And I'm sorry if that means we have to cut out
cut a lot of
characters or
stuff
cast members, whatever. Let's just figure it out. But let's make, those are the parameters. Let's build something around that, and make it fun and make it sing.
2.5. Did not expect that from you, sir. Proud of you. Proud of you all around today. I do feel like this director is very talented, and I feel like this movie, the budget's huge and you see it on screen.
Oh man, everywhere.
You see it.
Massive.
But the problem is
Set building.
you're not thinking about the meat and potatoes of, like you said, your goal. Is your goal to be scary? Then don't think about how big something can be or how wild something can look. Think first about how to manufacture the scare so that it like hits you, not just on a visual level or on a Dolby Atmos subwoofer level, but like hits you in the scare bone. I got none of that. I was not scared for a split second in this movie. I was laughing a lot.
It's just not. It's not.
And I was
at all.
I was soothed in the way that you can be soothed when you're watching something that's super slick and designed to like just like massage your eyeballs. Because there's a lot of great visual flair to this, and I'm not denying that in the least. But what is it all in service of? Like, what are you left with? What are we left with today from this? I just spent a long, confusing time in Maine. That's what I feel like.
Yeah.
Frustrating, confusing, gross.
Where I'm supposed to cheer on my friend's suicide? 'Cause he like sent me a note saying I hope it works out.
He's like, it's okay,
Very
Stanley.
bizarre.
Like, I don't
It's
know.
okay, Stanley.
I think the ending was supposed to. The ending was supposed to be heartwarming.
And on a wedding invitation with Ben and Bev, I don't get that.
I'm not heartwarmed. I'm not scared. I'm just kind of vaguely impressed by the craftsmanship. So, 2 bones.
2 bones.
2 bones.
I gotta give it 2.
2 bones.
Chapter 2 bones.
2.
I mean, you think they're done?
Utah, give me 2.
You think they're done?
I can.
Yeah. They can't make this into anything more, right?
they'll do
Scary
like-
elderly people 27 years later.
Yeah, can you imagine
way,
it?
Michael Douglas?
No
Jumping to chapter
way.
3. Their
They'll
scars
do
come back.
They'll do a prequel. They'll do a prequel with Skarsgard. There you go.
They will do a prequel, Pennywise Origins.
That's fine.
Because the old lady,
That's fine.
remember they set it up with the
Yeah.
old lady.
That stuff makes no sense.
Well,
though,
we'll
right?
see how much
Like,
it makes.
Is
It's
it
gotta
It'll
make-
is
be
it
no
her father?
Netflix or HBO will
Yeah.
do it.
Her
They'll,
father
like,
is
spin it off
possessed
into a
with-
streaming thing.
Oh my god.
No, yeah.
goodness.
Warner Brothers has their platform dropping. The Comcast, they've got their thing launching next year.
I just want to follow Bogdanovich's character in
Oh,
an
he's great.
offshoot.
He is
Bogdanovich
great.
versus
Back
Pennywise.
to one, please.
Back to
He'll
one.
choke him out with an ascot. That's it, chapter 2, guys. That's
Yay.
it. That's it.
We floated.
That's it.
We floated so hard.
We got floated.
Man, we were floating
The
around.
Bavarian legend floats within Brother Bishke.
Dude, it's like intergalactic.
Oh,
Did you finish it?
I did.
I
get a
told
free
you,
t-shirt
No,
if
it
you
finished
win.
maybe
him.
once a year, right? This is a once a
Yeah,
year treat.
yeah,
In the end, it's finishing him.
Yeah. There were times where I was just looking at it and sighing. And
Glutton.
Like it's insulting you.
It's so good. It's so good. Well, thanks for lending a huge chunk of your Saturday, Brother Nathan and Mr. Billy.
yeah, thank you.
This
We
was
really
this
appreciate
was
it.
homework, man. It's a chore.
We needed you guys
This
to
is
get
yard
through
work.
this,
Yep.
to wade through the gray water with us. And
We got a lot of good movies coming up.
we got some great stuff coming up. You're gonna want to stay tuned and tell a friend. Go on iTunes and give us 5 stars with a review. I don't care what you say. Just make it 5 stars and then talk
Yeah.
about whatever you want.
And if you think iTunes is clunky, we're also on Spotify.
Excellent, excellent.
Comments
Well
on
sold.
Spotify.
All right, Bishke's powering down. We're gonna power down too. Love and light.
Love and light.
To all y'all.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Hi, this is Seth Anderson. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller, actual brother of Brother Nathan. I've been a big fan. Anyway, I want to talk about It Chapter 2. I'm a long-time reader of Stephen King. As a matter of fact, I have just started to reread Stephen King chronologically, and I've been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years. And I skipped forward to It about 3 years ago. And the thing about It and the thing about Stephen King at that period is that he, as he has explained in On Writing, which is a side note I recommend for aspiring writers, in On Writing he explained that he writes the first draft, so he goes for about 3 months, then he comes back and he does his second draft. And what you're always reading with Stephen King, more or less, the second draft or a third draft, polish if you're lucky. And I think since he has been best-selling author, that's the way it's been with him. So you're reading exploratory books. Challenge for a filmmaker then is to adapt that into something coherent, and it's a very tough challenge. I think Kubrick really worked on it. It's what we think of as one of the best adaptations of Stephen King. But It is 1,000 pages, it's 1,100 pages, and there's no real third act. There's no ending. The ending is impossible. It is very problematic. So what do? You try to find a plot out of it. And It Chapter 2 just could not do that with 7 characters. First thing you do is you strip it down to 5 characters. Do you remember every character in that movie? They define themselves by caricatures, which is the worst thing you can say about Stephen King. He does do that with characters. But here, it's just almost impossible to remember who you're following. I thought the first one was better, and I thought it was more coherent. I thought there's a visual flair. There are good sequences in here, but I really got to say, at the end, I do not like the retrieval of suicide as some kind of heroic act, and I think that that is the great sin at the end. Spoiler of It Chapter 2. I think that he killed himself because he's afraid of the fucking clown. Okay, that's enough. All right, and they were down one guy, and that made it a tougher challenge. It was great. There's a challenge there. Play with it. Not so good. 2 bones. That's my first review. See you with Terminator, guys, and thank you.
I think it's a real fresh-looking clown.